You catch me this week feeling somewhat chastised in an Ofsted sort of way because of this message from Rolf Kraki, who has posted regularly here on the Kermode Uncut blog. I'll just read it to you because it speaks for itself. We had a teacher at school who would set homework. We'd busy ourselves finishing it in time, we'd hand it in, only to be faced with the teacher throwing our books back at us, unmarked, even unopened, as he set the next bit of work for us. Eventually, we stopped doing anything, and he never even noticed. How many questions are you going to set, Mark, before giving us some feedback? All I can say is, I know there's been so much stuff to talk about the last week. I have been bad about doing feedback on the blog. I have been reading your comments. I just perhaps haven't given you full marks for them. Well, that ends now. So class, pay attention, sit up at the back. Here are your homework results for last week. Now last week I was talking about the poster for Me and Orson Welles, which I like very much, shot in the Isle of Man. And there was a quote on the poster from Alan Frank of the Daily Star calling it the feel-good film of the year. And much as I liked the movie, I wasn't sure that feel-good film of the year was the phrase I would have chosen. And I asked you to tell me which films this year left you feeling good. Which ones did you enjoy the most? Not necessarily feel-good films. So loads of you answered. Loads of people wrote in saying that they liked 500 Days of Summer, which I found overly quirky. Loads of you wrote in saying Drag Me to Hell, the Sam Raimi horror comedy, which I like very much. Stereoroid chose The Good, the Bad and the Weird, which I kind of understand why somebody would find it a feel-good film. Personally, I found it to be a bit of an endurance test. It was too wacky for its own good. But this I enjoyed very much from Redfield 88. My feel-good movie of the year, Antichrist. After getting through the horrors of that film, I felt great that I had been through something challenging, shocking, and altogether extraordinary. It goes on to say, incidentally, I have a question for you on Antichrist. In your review, you said that there were moments that made you go, oh, come on, Lars, stop it. Pray tell us what those moments were. Well, I mean, it's fairly obvious. The scissor scene, everybody else was wincing, and I just thought, yeah, Lars, really, just stop it. So that was specifically the scissors. But I still did feel good about the film, even without the genital mutilation. Continuing this bad but good theme, this from Running Fox 83. Transformers 2, my feel-good film of the year, made me feel good about hating Michael Bay. Loads of you wrote in saying Star Trek. This is a typical example. Blood Opera. My feel-good film of the year has to be Star Trek 11. You referred to it. I think we just call it Star Trek. I was overjoyed when I stepped out of the cinema, just what the series needed, and one of the few films I've seen in the cinema where, as soon as I got home, I began talking about what the sequel might do. And another popular choice from William Chadwick, my feel-good film of the year, Easy Up. No film this year has made me walk out of the cinema and feel better about what life has to offer ahead of me. Now, the other part of this week's homework was me asking you which quotes you think have most misrepresented a film. Quotes from critics, it has to be pointed out. And a couple of very good suggestions. This from Joe Brody. I recently bought a copy of Synecdoche, New York, and it said, quote, smash hit comedy of the year on the side. Made me want to vomit up my own testicles. I mean, I have heard people mounting pretty enthusiastic defences for Synecdoche. In fact, funnily enough, I did a thing in Belfast the other week and somebody said that it was their favourite film of the year and they'd really liked it. And I said, well, what did you really like about it? And they said, well, there was one moment in it when somebody said one thing. And I thought, yeah, it's that kind of film, when there's one bit in it that kind of redeems the otherwise stodgy awfulness of it all. But smash hit comedy of the year? I don't think so. And then this, I await verification on this, okay? This is from Sean Chacksfield, who I'm taking at face value. My old VHS copy of Batman Forever has a quote on the back from Jonathan Ross. The quote reads, "The greatest movie ever made, Batman Forever." Now, I'm not suggesting that Jonathan Ross got paid to say that, of course not, but I'm certain I've never seen Batman Forever on the lists with The Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, etc., as one of the greatest movies ever made. I wonder if he'd retract that today. Now, as I said, I'm slightly surprised to hear that, but if anyone else has verification, did Jonathan Ross say that Batman Forever was the greatest movie ever made? Sounds terribly unlikely. Finally, this point from Michael Alexander, which perfectly illustrates something I was sort of edging towards, which is the idea that if you put a quote on a poster that kind of misrepresents the movie. What you might do is scare off the right audience and attract, in inverted commas, the wrong audience. I mean, John Hillcoat was talking about the fact that the trailers for his film The Road completely misrepresented the movie. So people went along expecting a disaster movie and they didn't get it, but the people who wanted the Cormac McCarthy novel just stayed away because they thought they'd get a disaster movie. This, on the subject of Orson Welles, the poster for me and Orson Welles actually put me off seeing the film. Now, I might go and see it. Well, do, because it's really worth seeing. And I did feel good after seeing it both times. But it's not a feel-good film.